Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Meg, and this is Ger Can Get It. This week, we suffer extreme Stockholm Syndrome with the cast and crew of Airwolf.
If they gave awards for makeouts on screen or stage, this guy would get a lifetime achievement. He'll find any excuse to get right to sucking face. You honestly wouldn't believe it. Dissecting each and every kiss with tongue. There's only one conclusion to come to. It's that Ger can get it. Ger can get it.
You want to talk about taking one for the team.
We underwent such a trauma. This was 24 hours of content that we watched. I am dumber for it. My brain doesn't work the same way it did before I started watching this insane program. Just the effort we went through.
These episodes had no business being an hour long.
There were times when I fell asleep and woke up and nothing had happened, but like the episode had kept playing. I was so confused.
It could have been the next episode. You wouldn't have even known.
They were all the same.
They're all the same episode. Except sometimes there's lasers and sometimes there's machine guns.
Sometimes there's cyborgs and sometimes there's Russians. You know?
Yeah.
The show ran the gamut. There's an episode with a lady mime.
There's a mime. That is true. There's a disenfranchised youth going on a hike with Ger, who gets shot and falls off a mountain, and then he's like, "It's fine, I'm fine, it's fine, you guys."
He had Jason Priestley to lean on, so it was okay. Jason Priestley, who was playing a 16-year-old like 10 years before he would continue to play a 16-year-old on 90210.
Yeah.
And he looks closer to a 16-year-old in this, but also he's definitely... I didn't check. I'm just going off my gut. He definitely also looks like he's 24. Like, I feel like...
Yeah, no, he's a 16-year-old who's secretly the son of the mob boss.
Grandson of the mob boss.
Grandson, right. And his name is like Robert Carmen or something. And he's like, "No, you are Roberto Carmino." And he's like, "No, my name is Robert Carmine." And he's like, "No. What's happening?" Meanwhile, Ger got like machine gunned off the mountain and he's like, "High five!"
I'm dying. Okay, before we start. Oh, I'm crying already. Okay, we're 1 minute in and I am crying. This show was so dumb.
It's hard to describe how bad this show is.
It's bad enough that it's making us cry.
Yeah.
So you watched it in what, like, mainlined it in like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I have been watching it slowly since I got back from Canada. So it's been like 3 weeks. It took me the solid 3 weeks because I had to keep stopping. I was like, I can't watch any more of this. It hurts. I don't remember colors. I don't remember shapes. I have to stop.
I used to be happy. I used to know what daylight was.
And then I got to the end and I was like, oh, is there no more? I could watch another episode. So when I say Stockholm Syndrome, I very much mean actual Stockholm Syndrome. The show did things to me. But okay. So we watched the only season of Airwolf that Ger is in, which is season number 4. It's from 1987. And if you're like, oh, how did you understand anything when you just picked up at the very last season of the show? It didn't matter.
It didn't matter.
What happened, my understanding of what happened is they had 3 seasons, and it sounds like the first 3 seasons were more like serious and hard-hitting, and they had an actual budget of actual American currency instead of like the nuts and acorns that they had for season 4. And so they could make like a cool, serious political, like terrorist drama, like sort of what we thought
like
24 was.
24-ish.
Yeah. Although, fun fact, I have started watching Ger's season of 24. It is also not good. But what we thought 24 was, we thought it was like serious and like, politics and entertainment. So that's what it sounds like seasons 1 through 3 were. And then they don't have a budget anymore. They try and make the show family friendly. And then I think my understanding is that the actor who played the main character in the first 3 seasons, Jan Michael Vincent, maybe had a problem with drugs and alcohol. So he either wanted to leave the show or they were like, you need to not be here. So like everybody who was on the show before season 4 is gone. They're just totally gone.
Just gone.
it's gone. So there's no budget and a brand new crew, and they sort of half-assedly explain it like in the first 5 minutes of the first episode of season 4.
They all died.
Well, apparently there was like a lady, and then the company, which was called the Firm in the first 3 seasons, it's the CIA. It's the CIA, but in the first 3 seasons they refer to it as the Firm, and when we get to season 4, they're like, it's the company, but it's a government agency. It's basically the CIA because they're doing like international spy shit.
Yeah.
There was like whoever their liaison was, that guy in the first episode, they mention offhand, they're like, oh yeah, Archangel, that guy, we reassigned him to like Tibet or whatever, like Libya. I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Somewhere else.
He's not here. He's down the hall. He's in the shitter. He'll be in the shitter for the entire season. Don't worry about it. I guess his secretary was a character. She's gone. There were apparently 2 different female pilot characters. They're not even mentioned in the pilot in the first episode of season 4, as far as I can recall. There's the only characters that we have are Stringfellow Hawk, who was the main character of the first 3 seasons. And he's like blown up in a helicopter. And so we see him in the hospital. They don't ever say whether he lives or dies. He just is out of commission for now.
Yeah.
And then Ernest Borgnine played a character in the first 3 seasons who owned their like cover helicopter operation. And his last name was Santini. And so he gets actually blown up all the way and he dies in the first episode.
It's not even him. It's like
it's a body double from the back.
It's a body double. Yeah.
It's a vaguely similarly shaped older man who explodes. He's gone. So his niece, Jo Santini, comes in. So she's a brand new character. Oh, the only other like connection to the first 3 seasons are the main character of the show going forward is a guy named Sinjin Hawk. And he is the brother of Stringfellow Hawk. And I guess the first 3 seasons, it's Stringfellow like trying to find Sinjin. And then the first episode of season 4, it's, oh yeah, we found him. All right. Cool.
And he got out.
And he's fine.
He picked a lock with his dick, and then we healed all of his facial injuries.
Yeah, he was in some kind of a prisoner of war camp, and nobody heard of anything from him for like the last 30 years. And we just found him. He's cool now. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So, God, this show. Okay, so we have Sinjin Hawk played by Barry Van Dyke, and if you're like, oh, that name sounds familiar, it's because Dick Van Dyke is his dad, and that will become relevant in about 2 seconds because he drags Dick Van Dyke into this shit show. It is so good. So
Dick Van Dyke as a robot.
Yes, Dick Van Dyke will be a cyborg in about 12 seconds. It is quality. A lot of emotions happen. He has to at one point lie with his body underneath a floor and roll his eyes around like a disembodied robot head. It is just, he should have won awards. Okay, so we have Barry Van Dyke. He plays the main character, Sinjin Hawk. He is some kind of a major, apparently, in the U.S. Army, according to Wikipedia. And
it's St. John, like St. John.
Yeah, well, it's an English name. It's like in Jane Eyre, the boyfriend character in Jane Eyre, he's also Sinjin.
Oh.
That's the only other Sinjin I've ever heard of. But yeah, it's a real British name. It's just spelled, ST.JOHN. But you pronounce it Sinjin. Anyways, so that's him.
Okay.
Then there's Jo Santini, who's the one who inherits the cover airline or helicopter company, I guess.
J.O. because she's a girl.
Yeah, that's how you... Yeah. Then there's Ger's character, who is Mike Rivers. He is a major in the U.S. Air Force. And he's sort of the, like, when they feel like giving anybody a characterization, which they never do, he's sort of, like, meant to be, like, the smart character and also the, like, sexy character. But, like, it depends on the episode. Like, there's literally an episode where they're like, oh no, Mike Rivers, he's in a coma, and he's the one that comes up with plans. And then they do, like, a flashback to a scene in another episode where they literally went, oh, it would be great if we had a plan. And the Mike Rivers character's like, yeah, we don't have a plan. And I'm like, that's your flashback for him being the master tactician, him like shrugging and being like, oh shit, do we not have a plan?
It's really like it's a D&D campaign and everybody made their characters without talking to anybody. And when you got together for the first thing, they're all barbarians. Like everybody has the same skill set. Everybody feels this. You could pluck any character out of the storyline, drop any other character in there, and it would all still make the same sense.
That's the frustrating thing, is everyone feels interchangeable except for Jo, which like the Jo character bums me out. I want to talk about that in a second, but like she's human female because it was 1987 and that was a character, just human female. So we've got St. John, who's the main guy, and he likes motorcycles, and he has that Barry Van Dyke long haircut. We have Joe Santini, human woman. We have Ger as Mike Rivers, sexy Air Force pilot, who is sometimes the really smart character and sometimes just, like you said, interchangeable with everybody else. We have a character called Jason Locke, who is their counterpoint, their liaison with the company, which is confusing on its own, which I'm going to get into in a second, but he's like the government agent. And then apparently Locke has a supervisor because Wikipedia says he has a supervisor. I don't fucking remember this guy. There's like a bunch of old men that work for the CIA and they wander around and they pop up sometimes. And apparently one of them was important enough for a last name.
There's the smoking man from FBI or from X-Files. He's in this.
That might be the guy. Yeah, that's him actually. That's his. The actor is William Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't remember him as being like important in any way, but I
only remember him because I was like, oh, that's the guy from the X-Files, and he's also smoking in this, and I was like, oh, he's the same character. Oh, okay, good to know.
That's apparently what he's famous for. And then the actor who played Jason Locke, the junior government agent, the actor is Anthony Sherwood, and he was in Street Legal, so he and Ger will work together. I think Street Legal happens after this. This is 87. Wasn't that like 92?
There's another guy from Street Legal in this too.
Was there? Which one?
He's in a later episode. He's the one where they're trying to save the nuclear power plant with their helicopter. And
weren't there multiple episodes where they tried to save a nuclear power plant with a helicopter?
Yeah, it's the one where it's like overheating. It's like 3 Mile Island just happened and we're all like, ooh, it's Chernobyl again. And so Joe gets captured and she's like helping people with radiation sickness, and there's another doctor there and they like flirt, and then at the very end he's like, I'd like to get to know you better, and without the politics, and she's like, yeah, we can hang out, and then you never see him again.
Oh, that sounds vaguely familiar in that soup that this lives in my brain now.
Yeah, he helps her escape. And then,
is that the same one where it's the 2-part Russian power plant, and they have the dad from My Big Fat Greek Wedding in there doing his Greek accent as a Russian?
Yes, that's the exact episode. And the guy that she's hanging out with, I think his name is Alec. He's also in Street Legal, because I was like, oh, I recognize him because he has a very like distinctive nose. And so I looked it up, and I was like, oh yeah, he's in Street Legal.
I love that everything we watched that was filmed in Canada has everyone else that has been in.
There was just like a very small Rolodex of Canadian actors.
I think there were like 5 guys, and they were just in everything.
They flipped it, and when it stopped turning, they were like, all right, hire that guy. That was it.
And actually, like even in Airwolf, in this season of 24 episodes, there is a guest star woman who will play 2 different characters in an episodes. They're like 2 episodes apart.
Yeah, not even that far apart. They're like, well, she was a mime. She has
the most distinctive haircut I've ever seen. Like it's not even like they put a wig on her. So there's this thing I don't really understand with haircuts in the late 80s where women had just like, all the men just had mullets. And I'm like, all right, I understand the mullet. But like the women had these like, my barber was blind and mad at me, like haircuts where it's like all their hair was cut off, and then what they had left was like styled but not styled together. It's like, are you trying to scare away a bear? Like what was happening on top of your head? But like she has like I'm an avant-garde artist hair, like gelled up hair when she's a mime, and then 2 episodes later when she is a nun. Yeah, they just make it flat, but she doesn't have enough hair to like cover any portion of her head. Yeah, well, she's a nerd; she has to have glasses.
No one will know. They probably filmed it at the same time. They're like, "Well, you're already here."
Yeah, just wash that gel shit out of your hair. You're a nun now.
Here, put these glasses on. You're like Clark Kent. No one's gonna know. And it is like 2 episodes. It's not like a long way away. No. Yeah.
Because I never noticed when you're like, oh, this person was in this. I never, ever noticed. And I noticed. It's like, that's how you know it's very glaring.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, like you said, the characters are all so interchangeable. Like, the St. John character and the Mike Rivers character are just, like, hotshot pilots who do pilot-y things.
And they pilot shit.
Yeah. And they're, like, very attractive and women love them. But, like, sometimes they differentiate that where it's, like, the Ger character loves them back. And the St. John character is just sort of like loved by everyone because he's the hot main guy.
Yeah, we're gonna get back to this. We haven't even talked about how Screed is in this.
That's right. I forgot that you mentioned that Screed
is definitely in this, and I did not know he was a ginger. I was like, oh, look at that, and I think he dies in the episode.
Screed dies in everything he's in, and also real life.
And they're like, he was a good guy though, and they're all like, yeah. He was a good guy. Like, that's how you talk about him. The body count is ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we saved the day. And it's like, it kind of reminds me.
Village.
Kind of reminds me of the premise of The Incredibles, where they sue the superheroes because they end up just killing everybody or like destroying property.
Yeah. And but we were so comfortable with that in like the 80s and 90s, I feel like, in these programs. Like, it's weird to watch it now where I'm like, oh, it seems like normally, like, now we're like, let's arrest the person and bring them to justice, or like, let's like talk them off the cliff and like try to convince them not to do the crazy thing. But like in the 80s and 90s, we were like, what if we just killed all of them? Hear me out. We blow up an entire town and then no one evil is left. And we were like, yeah.
But it's
like,
fine.
Just, like,
they're all Russian. So.
Yeah, or Eastern European or Japanese.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There's a guy who's fighting World War II still.
Yeah.
That was an episode that I watched and don't feel good about.
We have a Native American mysticism episode.
We have at least 2. They hit all the fucking points.
We're hitting the highlights.
Any woman who comes on the scene is either a victim or a femme fatale. Like, they just... Well, and that's my... Like, so we were talking about the characters being sort of interchangeable. So... The 2 male leads are like the same. The one black character who's the guy that works for the company, he sometimes is on their team and like works with them and is a pilot, but he's sometimes like the administrative office guy who works for the government, and the government is not supposed to be able to get Airwolf. Like, that's the whole point of this show. They're like the Avengers. They're the Avengers, 1987. They have this technology that's super advanced. I think in the first season of the real first season, they are sent to go and get Airwolf from like some mad scientist, because, spoiler alert, every 3rd episode in the show is about a mad fucking scientist, because that was...
They're just thick on the ground in the 80s.
There were so many of them. They were like learning things and going mad with power.
Well, you know what it is there was so much available vacant desert land with hollow mountains that you could hide out in. I mean, when there's a flood of those on the real estate, you're just asking for
I've been really picky. Scientists. Like, I would love to get my own place, and I should have gone to Zillow desert mountain bases, because I really feel like
there's got to be a bunch, right? Search. And like, I love the little animated Airwolf that's definitely like being lowered on a string through this little set. It's like boop, 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 boop.
This show is so I feel like we can't even explain. This show broke us. Yeah. We tried. We fucking tried.
I mean, we've watched puppets that get blowjobs. I feel like we've watched Ger get cock-blocked by his dead mom as he tries to transport her to Niagara, because her dying wish was to be buried in Niagara, and she somehow also is a ghost. We have watched a lot of shit, okay? We've watched boring stuff. We've watched weird stuff. We've watched great things that were really entertaining. But this was almost unwatchable.
This nearly broke us.
I literally had to like, okay, you can take a break after this episode. Like, you just have to sit through this episode. And I don't think having more time would have solved the problem. No. I think if I tried to watch one episode every day for 24 days, I still would have been like, I can't.
Correct. Well, I told you, it took me 3 weeks, and I would mainline as many as I could in one sitting. And then afterwards I was like, I don't feel so good. Brain doesn't work.
Yeah, no, this was...
hard.
It was hard. I don't know if it was because it was dated. They're long.
It was.
They are convoluted. You remember that show that was like Ocean's 11, but every week it was.
Oh yeah, with Timothy Hutton.
Yeah.
It wasn't Vengeance, but I feel like the name was like, it sounded like Vengeance.
Yeah, that's what this was trying to be, where they were like, we're going to be like a James Bond heist spy movie every single week. And instead, it was just leverage. Thank you. And instead, it was just exhausting. Where you were
everything ran together. There's multiple episodes where there's Japanese businessmen committing crimes. There's multiple episodes where there are Russian scientists blowing shit up. There's several episodes where there's cults or robot scientists who are following cults or trying to create cults. Like everyone is threatening to blow up the entire world in every episode. and yet there's like a total lack of urgency. It's like, oh,
yeah,
is Dick Van Dyke threatening to release toxic fumes that will kill half the world?
No, he's trying to keep all the sick people out of the world.
Right.
He's trying to kill all the okay.
Yeah, but it was So Dick Van Dyke is a sort of Howard Hughes, like afraid of all germs scientist who replaces all of his blood at one point in the episode. All of his blood is
He's
gone.
like, oh, it makes me feel invigorated.
And they have him in like an automatic wheelchair. And so for the first like 25 minutes of the episode, he is just in this automatic wheelchair and he appears to only have the use of one hand. And so I was like, oh, okay, he is playing a quadriplegic. That's not great. I don't love it, but it's 1987. Let's just go with this. And then halfway through the episode, he stands the fuck up and he's fine. And I was like, what? He threatens the world that if we don't quarantine all sick people, and I don't think he even defines it any more than that. So maybe if you have a cold.
Export them, not export them, but what do you call it when you send an immigrant back home? Theoretically home.
Not extradite.
Deport.
Deport, yeah.
Deport them. He doesn't say where to. He doesn't give a shit.
Right, but he doesn't. I don't think he even specifies like what counts as sick from his.
No.
Does he?
He just says deport all sick and like ill people. Yeah.
Just send them away to one place, quarantine them all together.
Just deport them.
Or I will release this toxic waste and poison the entire world.
Correct. I'll make everybody sick. Because
Which I feel like
people.
I feel like when I say that to you, you're like, oh, I bet there was only one episode where there was an insane cult leader threatening to poison the entire world. Several.
No.
Yeah. It happens multiple times. It all blurs together.
I have 3 episodes that I remember the whole episode because I liked them well enough. And
were they the Ger episodes?
Well, one of them is the one where we open with Ger has to use the monotone voice activation system in Airwolf, where he's like, lasers deploy, because he has to try to keep a monotone voice, which it sounds like it almost kills him, honestly, to like just speak in a monotone.
Look, he is an actor. His whole thing is adding tone and color and warmth to his voice.
They're like, no, this it feels like it was specifically designed to like harm him, because they're like, okay, now try. And he has the whole like beep boop, like the space helmet that they put on with it's like the one time the visor goes down and he's like, okay, I want to use the system, and he like blows up a ship, and then he's like, oh, it was just a sitting duck. It's easy to fire a rocket at like a giant ship on the water. And he's like, okay, here comes our drone, which is literally just like a prop plane. And he's like, shoot that down with the lasers, because Airwolf has lasers. And so he like uses the computer to target it, and it shoots the wing off. And the guy in the back, Locke, is like, yeah, see how accurate that was? And he was like, it was off by 2 inches. And he was like, now you're just splitting hairs. It was close enough. And he was like, I could have done better. There's no substitute for human experience. And I'm like, okay. And then our, let's see, St. John gets kidnapped and he gets injected with their super virus. And they're like, ha, we've given you the super virus. You're going to die. And he's like, actually, I'm fine. And they're like, oh no, our super virus isn't working. Inject him harder. And so they like take this giant, like, it looks like the bull semen thing, the like giant, they like go boom, like slam it into him and like inject so much fluid that alone should kill him. And then he's like, ha ha, I have defeated your super virus because I had malaria, because I was imprisoned in the jungle for years. And they're like, this man is unkillable. So they like lock him in a room with a bunch of stuff, by the way. It's not like a little prison room. It's just like lab storage. And so he just breaks a glass and saws his own bindings off, like his tape off. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The relevant part here is they're escaping with the frozen vial of super virus. And Ger has to shoot this van. It's a full-size van. And he has a railgun on his helicopter, his space helicopter, that just shot down a drone with lasers. And he misses the fucking van, okay? Misses it completely. Doesn't hit the tires, nothing. There's not a ding on this van. And then this man goes to a skyscraper somewhere in the city where the company is adjacent to the desert base, I assume. And he goes all the way to the top and he opens his like thermos and pulls out the super virus, and he's like, this will be thawed in 10 seconds and then it will infect the entire city except anyone who's had malaria. And then he starts counting down, and he's like monologuing, and you can see him monologuing, and then we cut to the helicopter and they're like, is he talking? And then they have to like push a bunch of buttons to be able to hear him. And then it cuts on mid-sentence where he's like, and then everyone will die. And they're like, oh, he's still monologuing. And then he starts counting down 10 seconds that this thing, he's already had it in his hand. He's been monologuing for like 5 minutes, but 10 seconds, it's going to thaw. And then Ger turns on the laser system, and it's going to target the little vial. And he turns it into manual mode because there's no substitute for human experience. And he shoots the vial out of this man's hand from like really far away because they can't get any closer or they will scare him off, quote unquote. And so it lights the vial on fire. He throws the vial. Everything around this guy lights on fire. The roof below him lights on fire. And then the man explodes.
I remember the beginning of that episode where they were trying to teach him how to make the laser do stuff while like with a monotone voice, which I don't see how that would be useful at all. Do you know what I mean? Like you're in like the middle of a dogfight and you have to be like, 1 second, let me just make sure my voice tone is low enough for Siri to hear me.
Yeah.
1 second, let me just make sure that that's correct. I don't remember a single goddamn thing after that. What you're telling me is like brand new. I watched all these things. That's when I fell asleep and woke up again.
Because I was just like, wait, he couldn't hit a fucking van with a machine gun, but he can switch to manual mode and hit this vial with a laser beam.
They're equally weirdly turned on by all of their own technology and equally dumb as hell with their technology, like inconsistent, like just weird. Like, so you're talking about the helmets. I'm going to try to explain to someone who's never watched this before what the deal with the helmets is because it's
okay. They swiped them off the Battlestar Galactica.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Set. Yeah.
Yeah. The set guy that day was like, wait a minute.
And just spray painted him gray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So half the time when they're in the helicopter, they just have little headsets on, like just little like headphones and like a little microphone to their mouth, and that's what they're using anytime they're on the helicopter set, which I appreciate, if only because when I've been trying to watch 24 for a future episode, nobody ever wears any goddamn like headgear at all in helicopters, and they talk like it's normal. They talk like they're just having a normal conversation, like you don't have a giant fucking rotor over your head. Just normal conversation. So I appreciate that Airwolf was like, you know what? For verisimilitude, little headsets, you guys. But then, inexplicably, so 1/3 of the time, headsets. The next third of the time, they will put on, like you said, the Battlestar Galactica style helmets, where the visor is up. So they're like motorcycle helmets. So they will just take off their headsets and put on motorcycle helmets for no discernible reason. I can't figure out why. It doesn't change anything. They never announce something like, oh, shit's got real now. Let me put on my real helmet. Like nothing. No. Then the last third, they will put on the motorcycle helmet and they will click down their visor. And sometimes, not every time, sometimes when that visor comes down, it's a tiny computer screen. And you will see, like from the outside, you will see that it's like, do you remember the Nintendo Virtual Boy?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's the little red, like stand up. Audience, just look up the Nintendo Virtual Boy. I don't know how to explain it to you. It was like early VR technology.
They used to have them at like Best Buy. You could play them.
Yeah, in the store.
And they always smelled because they were that like foam that pressed against your face, and you and like 100 people had done it that day.
Yeah, nerd sweat had just soaked into it. And
that's all I can think of every time I see him.
For me, one time in a Best Buy store, because I think we didn't have Best Buy back when we had like Toys R Us, but I remember like it was in the store. One time it worked for me. Every other time they were like, oh, I'm sorry, it's broken. It's been smashed by too many angry nerds. It doesn't work. But it was like, that's the kind of screen, like the old timey late 80s VR green gray doing our best headset. That's what was on their little targeting, like their little, what do you call it? Their visor on their helmets. They would never they don't ever explain what they're doing or why they need it, but just like every once in a while they're like, oh shit, it's a very serious episode, get the good helmet with the screen that comes down. I don't know.
Bring me my good helmet.
So we haven't even explained the premise of the show. I am trying so hard.
What is the premise of the show?
It's not. It is confusing. So the best that I can understand is it's like the late 80s version of the Avengers. So they have technology that's super advanced. They stole it off of like some mad scientist is what it sounds like. That's how they got Airwolf, which is it's their super advanced helicopter that's better than any other helicopter. And like you said, it has lasers, which when they fire are just drawn on the screen.
Yeah, and they literally go beep pew, beep pew, beep pew, beep pew, beep pew. And every time they're in Airwolf, it's like boop 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 boop. They're just
terrible.
Like beeping in the background. It's awful.
Well, and I will say, Ger in person has mentioned this, and I know that I've heard him mention this in like interviews and things where he's like, "Oh yeah, my brother, the helicopter pilot, he like makes fun of me because when I was doing Airwolf, they literally just said smash whatever buttons you wanted to, and he was like, got it, chief, and he just hit whatever buttons, and I was like, surely it can't be that noticeable. 3 episodes in, I was like, sir, what are you doing? This is worse than when you did laundry and other women's children, like, and they have buttons with those little covers on them, like the don't accidentally hit the button covers. They will repeat this one like little video clip that they have of someone hitting these 2 buttons in order, like lift up the lid, hit the button, lift up the second lid, hit the second button. They will play that in every goddamn episode for 24 episodes straight. Yeah. I was losing my mind. But at least those 2 buttons, they said something like engine 1, engine 2, or like start 1, start 2. Like they had words on them that made it seem like I could believe that these are the 2 buttons that you hit to turn on a helicopter. Everything else they do, no, they literally, Garrett's like hitting shit above his head. He's like pulling knobs and shit next to him. He's doing like a little Jane Fonda workout. There's like, at one point someone is hitting, it was like, oh shit, like there was like a problem. And so they turned and they're just hit 4 buttons directly in a line. Just like, boop, 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 boop. And I was like, oh, you guys just vary it up a little. I don't know. Like look like you're thinking about doing something.
The way they use the same clip every time, it has to like veer really fast. And so it's like turning and it goes every time.
The sound effects in this.
It's the exact sound from Crawl. Every time they played it, I was like, oh, they just took that clip from Crawl because yeah, that's what it sounded like.
They didn't have a lot in terms of budget. And I will say, this show made me so appreciative for Fred Mullen. I had no idea. Because, okay, so Fred Mullen, if anyone doesn't know, he's the guy that did all of the music for Forever Night and several other TV shows and movies. He's a very talented guy. I didn't really understand the importance of that role of like adding like the background music to TV shows. You just don't think about it. It just becomes sort of part of like the environment of the show. That's how you know that it's successful. You don't think about it. I thought about the sound on every episode of Airwolf multiple times because they had like 3 separate.
There were 3 songs.
Not even songs. They're like do you remember when like the early like 2000s computers when they would turn on and you would get that little like meow, like that was just the fake MIDI song that it would make. It's like if you took the guy who did that and you were like, okay, what if you did that but twice as long and you did like 3 sets of them and we used it on a TV show about a helicopter and the guy was like, got it.
Yeah,
and
okay,
then,
whatever.
And then that was the guy that scored your TV show and he just used his 3 computer MIDI files for every goddamn scene.
It was so noticeable. The one time they had a new song, I noticed.
Yeah.
And it's the one of my second episode that I remember, which is the one where Ger's playing 2 characters. He's going to have to impersonate this East German double agent. And they pull this picture out and it's very clearly Ger in a wig with a little mustache. And he's like, oh man, okay. And so he's like, I don't know, I'm going to have to impersonate this guy. Like, oh no, is anyone going to be believing it? It's the same, he's the same guy. Like,
it's you, sir.
It's you, sir. And so they have to like move it up a week so he doesn't have time to grow a little mustache. So he has to like glue his little mustache on. And the only person that notices it's not the same person is his wife, the guy's
who he
wife.
shuts up by making out with, which is a characteristic that we shall address.
That was the most Ger of all episodes because he was like, he's cuddling her the whole time. Like this is not his wife at all, and he is just like, baby, I'll hold you. It's fine.
It's so good.
I'm gonna keep you safe.
We keep getting distracted.
Wait. No, but this is about the song because he's gonna do like an air show. His whole job is to show off and make people look at him for half an hour while they interrogate the spy who is also him. And he's walking through the hangar to get to his plane. And it's the one time there's a new song because it sounds exactly like She Blinded Me with Science. It's like boop, 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 boop.
Oh, it does. You're totally right.
Yeah, as he's walking through the hangar, and I was like, "Is this blinded me with science right now? Is that
it's the rights-free variant that we were allowed to use."
I was like, "Oh, okay." I guess they were like, "Get that man back." That we've had complaints because we've used the same upbeat. Like all of the background songs are upbeat. So even when dramatic things are happening, there's like upbeat synth music playing in the background.
But like
only
the
got
synth
one.
the synth is more than like
It's bad. It's bad.
I liked Revenge of the Nerds. So in my head, I was like, I like synth music. And then I got to this and I was like, I can't take any more.
It's bad. It's so bad. Like Fred, thank you.
Yeah,
I did not.
Thank you, Fred Mullen. You are a gift.
I appreciated you, but I did not appreciate you as much as I should have. And now I will never take you for granted.
I didn't understand the importance of him enough. And now I understand the importance of his entire career choice. I get it now. Because the alternative is I was so despondent. I was like, my eye was twitching. I was having like an emotional reaction to the weird like I was like, no, I can't fucking take this music anymore. I will scream. I will smash my DVD to pieces.
And one of the background songs is just the theme song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, they definitely doubled the use of that.
So that's not even new. And the theme song is like bump, 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 bump with like a helicopter flying over it. That's it.
We might have tortured ourselves in violation of the Geneva Convention by watching this. This was so much. But like
was this made by Russian terrorists?
Yes.
To torture.
We are now sleeper agents. We're gonna go to bed tonight. Someone's gonna call us and be like, Vladivostok.
No,
we're gonna wake up.
It'll be like that episode where Locke gets implanted with a mind control probe that they use the little remote control to control him.
And his girlfriend that we had never seen before died when a brain explodes.
And then we'll never see
this show. So the basic premise, which as you can tell, it's hard to put a finger on, but the basic premise is they have a very fancy helicopter
that's it.
That would be dangerous for bad people to have and dangerous for the government to have. So it has to be this ragtag crew of rugged individualists who they want to save the world, but they don't want to follow the government's rules. But sometimes they work with the government, and sometimes the government guy is on their crew, and sometimes he's like their agent friend, and sometimes his agency wants to steal the Airwolf back. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We don't really need to, but essentially that's the whole premise, is that they have a cool helicopter that does cool helicopter shit. So you have a nuclear power plant that's exploding. We can fix that. You have teens who are in need of love. The helicopter can fix that too. It turns out the helicopter is really just whatever you need. Like there's terrorists, there are Russians, there are Japanese suicide bombers. The helicopter will fix all of that shit. There's a ghost town.
There's a button for that.
Yeah, there's a button for that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it has lasers and it's great. And sometimes you need helmets and sometimes you don't. And that's that's the whole plot. That's the whole plot of the show. That's it. That's all we got. That's all they give us. Every episode is like some new weird thing going on. The first, I will say, so very briefly to talk about Joe Santini, because she bums me out. And then I want to get into characteristics, because there's nothing else to discuss with this show. It is just such a hot turd fire mess that made me want to send a love letter to Fred Mullen and be like, thank you for existing. Thank you for having a career that makes me not bleed from my brain. Yeah. So I feel like I was aware that in shows of the, like, let's say 90s going on backwards, that like when you would have a female character, her characteristics were, I am the female character, like end of list.
Yeah.
I didn't recall it being so jarring as it was with this Joe Santini character, because when you first meet her, she's like, I'm going to be running this helicopter company, like the fake, it's not the front company. It's a real company, but it's like the front for their Airwolf do-gooder business. But she knows how to fly a helicopter. I think at one point she rides a motorcycle. She's like supposed to be like this very cool, very competent lady character. And like there's like 2 episodes where she gets to do like sort of spy type stuff, spy helicopter stuff. And then after that, it's just, I'm dumb and I'm a human woman and I'm in distress.
Someone help me. Yeah. I hope one of my big strapping colleagues can come and save me.
Just like the number of times she gets stuck in a is it in Russia, the first episode, the prison, or like Belgrade?
Yes.
Eastern Europe.
Oh, yes.
She's stuck with a Russian gymnast.
The one where the gymnast and they're getting off the plane and they're like, is she a defector? And she literally has like Defector magazine and she's on the cover and it's like special defector from Russia who won all the gold medals. And it's got her picture on the cover. And I was like,
yeah, didn't you as a kid subscribe to Defector magazine?
What the I was like, would you take that as a memento? Why is that with you? What the fuck?
I feel like you should buy that once you get to America. Like you don't buy that on the plane from Russia as you're trying to hope they don't pick you up.
Shit? And then she's like, Joe, you've done this to me. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the magazine did that to you.
Yeah. But they get stuck in a Russian women's prison, which goes just as well as you would think it went.
Yep.
She at one point gets a message from her ex-boyfriend in Afghanistan. Did you like that episode? I wanted to blow my brains out. She gets a message, I don't think it's even a phone message. Isn't it like a beeper message or something, like a written message that's like, hey, I'm your ex-boyfriend. I'm in Afghanistan. Do you want to come meet me for lunch? And she's like, okay. And the Ger and Barry Van Dyke characters are like, are you fucking kidding us right now? And she's like, God, you guys don't even let me have a love life. God, you're so jealous and weird. And I'm like, bitch, Afghanistan for a lunch? What?
They have Airwolf. They can do what they want.
That's how she's like, I can fly there in 20 minutes. I have Airwolf. Like, it's not a big deal. So she gets there and her ex-boyfriend sells her to a fucking warlord who looks very Italian. And I'm not saying that you couldn't be in Afghanistan and look very Italian, but like the level of like product in the mullet that this man has was a problem. He's like, yeah, your friend sold you to me. You're mine now. And like she fights back, but like not in any kind of a way that like makes me feel like she's a strong, independent character. And it was it kind of felt like Fay Ray and King Kong, like, oh no, like burp, burp. And I was like, okay, I don't love this. And so then Ger and Sinjin have to save her with the murder helicopter by just blowing up sort of all of Afghanistan from what I recall. Like it's just. And then there's an episode towards the end where Joe's dad comes back, and I'm like, shouldn't he be the guy running the helicopter thing? Like his brother just died, but it somehow becomes Joe, whatever.
Yeah.
So her dad is like, oh, is she dating the Ger character? And Sinjin's like, yeah, don't want to get into that. And I was like, what? Like you had 23 other episodes where you could have gotten into that. Like, was there supposed to be sexual tension there? Like because they're treating her like kid sister that we have to protect because she's a woman and she's dumb and she'll, go to Afghanistan to meet an ex-boyfriend. And then there's either the same episode or one episode after, there's a question like, oh, is she dating Sinjin? She's like jealous of Sinjin having a girlfriend.
Back and forth. Yep.
And I'm like, you had 2 episodes at the end of this 24 episode run where you're like, she's a human female, so she has to be paired up with somebody. So we're just gonna have both the guys go, don't ask me. Like there's something like, is there deep Airwolf lore that I'm missing? Was there like deep like sexual tension subtext that I just like clearly just glossed over because of the lasers and the robots? Like,
yes,
that's all that they give her. And it would be less disappointing if they hadn't made me feel hopeful with the first 2 episodes. Because I feel like in the first 2 episodes, she was like, I'm like a modern spy and I'm really talented and I can fly airplanes and helicopters and I have kung fu skills and I like know shit and I'm like, I don't know, like it made her seem like she was like Black Widow from the Avengers, or like she was like trained and like had skill set, and which they don't explain because she's just a lady that owns a helicopter company. But I was like, oh, like you seem like you could be something. And then the show was like, oh wait, what year is it? 1987? Nah, you're just tits in a face back in the corner with you. And I was just like, ugh. So fucking annoying.
She plays in another television show.
What show?
Alien Nation, which is really good from what I recall. I used to watch it a lot when my dad would watch it. Did you ever watch Alien Nation?
I remember seeing little clips of it and wanting to watch more because they're the ones with the little leopard spots.
Yeah,
in their
they
heads,
had
right?
like so what happens is the ship arrives on Earth and I think it may crash. I can't remember. They're here and they can't leave. And so they have to like incorporate into human society. And so the main 2 characters are like a cop guy and then his partner. And his partner is, I forget what they're called. One of the aliens. And then his wife is played by the same actress who plays Joe.
Is she an alien or is she like a human wife?
She's an alien. No, she's his alien wife.
Huh.
And then, but like, it's really good. It's a really good like metaphor for like trying to integrate otherness into a society that isn't great at doing that.
So you're telling me that you were into a show with a human partner cop and sort of a monster cop trying to deal with being other in a society? Is that a thing that you're just telling me that you're into, Rachel? That's weird.
It's weird. I know. I have a type. They're allergic to salt water, which I always thought was interesting. So people will attack them with like spray guns with salt water in them. But it was good. Like the TV show didn't run for very long, but then it came back for a series of movies. And
I always wanted to watch them. Well, I was going to put it on the list. That it seemed good, but it was of the time when if you didn't watch it when it was on, like I couldn't find it.
They tried to do like a CW reboot called Star-Crossed.
You lost me at CW reboot, frankly.
It's so bad. I tried watching it. I was like, this is like bad Alien Nation. It's like teenage angst Alien Nation.
Give me, I don't know, like late 30s police procedural. That it turns out is what I'm into.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But anyway, she's good in that. She's a pretty strong, interesting character.
Well, she's not a bad actor. I think
she's not a human woman. She's an alien woman. So
she's allowed to have characteristics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And be a person.
Uh-huh.
God, it's such a bummer. I mean, this show, not that this show had potential. I nearly said this show had potential. This show had no potential.
No.
Zero potential. But I will say, my theory that the more characteristics something has, the worse it is, I really think holds true for this because, oh my God, he did everything in this. So, spider fingers. Anytime there's a woman and within 30 feet of him on this episode, the spider fingers come out. When we first meet Ger, I had high hopes. Okay. So when we first meet Ger, Locke, who's the guy that works for the government, he needs help. He's going to try to find the Airwolf helicopter. They sort of make it sound like it's for the government, but then he just becomes part of their team, blah, blah, blah. The episode starts with just him trying to find it. And he's like, I need someone super smart and capable to help me track Airwolf down. So he's like, smart, capable, maybe a little sexy. I know who to call. So he calls the Ger character, and he finds out that the Ger character is on some kind of what do they call it? Like a training mission, basically, where it's like him and a bunch of other guys, and they all have to like read maps, like to get to a point. I think it's like some kind of a cartography mission,
like land navigation kind of thing. Yeah.
And he's smarter and better than everyone else, obviously. So he has gotten to the end point of where they're supposed to be at the end of their training. He has set up a tent. He has a radio going on where it's playing like sexy music. He is lying exactly the way he lies in our fucking logo, which is just chef's kiss. He is drinking a martini and reading a book. And then when Locke opens the little flap of his tent, he's like, hello. And I was like, sir, fucking like, give me this character for 24 episodes. I would watch.
This is the best moment of the entire
It is the best moment. You're not lying. You're not exaggerating. It is the highlight. It set the bar so high. And then every episode after that was like, yeah, we're not even stretching to reach that bar. Sorry. But like they open the tent and he's like, hello, and like drinking his martini. And I was like, sir, what is this? And they set him up like, okay, so the very first time you see him, they set him up as smarter than all the other characters. And like super, super sexy Lothario. And then they just never follow. They never like give us anything for that through the rest of the series, which is a bummer.
Every once in a while we'll get a verbal cue, but we don't do anything with the character. Cause there's that one episode where they're at the bar and there's that lady, he's making eyes at that lady. And Joe goes, you're going to stare holes in her back. And he goes, you're right. I should start working on her front. And then he walks over and then he's talking to her and she's like, maybe we should go to my place, because they're just watching him talk and they're like, oh, he struck out 2 times. Like, what's he going to do now? And Sinjin goes, he's going to go for a home run. There's no choice. And then like immediately they leave and they're all like, fucking Mike or Mark Rivers. Mike. Okay. Fucking Mike. We knew he was going to get the girl. God, he's always like this. And then they go outside and a guy shows up and he's like, Mike Rivers? And Mike is like, yeah. And he's like, oh my God. And he pulls out a gun and tries to shoot him and they beat these people up. And then Joe and Sinjin come out and they're like, Mike, come on. And he's like, what? And then they end up getting like in a car and getting run off with the car. And Joe has to pretend to be in distress so they can put a transponder on this car that's chasing them. And then they don't tell anybody that. Like, Locke is like, how come you guys didn't tell me that was happening? And they're like, well, it didn't feel important.
Yeah, he was just going to get some pussy. Like, I know. Well, sometimes people shoot at him when he goes with a girl. It just happens. Okay?
It just happens. My God, because he runs off with her. They go to a motel. At this point, he has figured out she's a spy, but he's like, well, we are in a motel. And she's like, you make a compelling argument. And then they definitely fuck.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Oh, they definitely have sex. And then the next day, he shoots her in the stomach and she dies.
Well, she was trying to steal Airwolf. So
he's like, between you and Airwolf, honey, it's Airwolf. And he just shoots her. I was like, what just happened? He's sad. He's sad for 5 minutes. Because they're like, Mike. And he's like, I'm fine now. I just had to. I'm glad I hit that while I could.
But you're right. They like have these moments where they're like, oh yeah, Mike the inveterate horn dog, and I'm like, but you haven't shown me Mike the inveterate horn dog.
Yeah,
you showed me Mike
the guy telling me right now.
Whose visor goes up and down 6 times, and then like every 12th episode, he goes into full horn dog mode and like fucks a spy or a mime, and then 12 more episodes of nothing, and then 1 more spy and for mime.
Mime's not even a joke.
Oh no, really the mime is my favorite fucking. Okay, so there's a couple of episodes where they're like, what if we lean more into like the spy angle instead of the lasers and helicopters angle? And when they do that, like with the spy stuff, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of compelling. Like you're on the ground with actual characters and they're like, there's stakes and like, it's interesting. And then they're like, oh, was that good? Fuck that. We're not going to do that anymore. And then back to helicopters and pew pew and like the same background music. But there's an episode where I don't remember what this guy's deal is. I could look it up, but I'm not gonna. There's a guy who is in danger. He is in France. I feel like he's like a politician or like some government person who is in danger because of his politics. And so terrorists are like, well, we can't get to him because he's well protected. We're going to go after his daughter, the famous French mime. And I was like, the fuck? I'm sorry, what? So we end up having like scenes where it's Ger and or whoever else from Airwolf wasn't busy that day in the audience watching a mime troupe practice. And I'm like, I guess they're good as far as mimes go, but in terms of television, it's not riveting. No. Although, like you said, the guy who played Screed on Forever Night, he's like a juggler or like a guy who does tricks with those like metal rings, I guess. Yeah. He's a magician. He will die. It's very sad. Nobody cares. But the girl, the mime is like very mean and very haughty. And she has like super short 80s fancy hair and it's all gelled up to shit. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? And Ger has to save her. And because Ger's in a room with a human woman, she will immediately become attracted to him. And there's this like, will they, won't they with the fucking French mime? And I was like, I can't take this. Cause like he has his baby mullet. We have neglected to mention this. Ger has the mullet. He has like the prototype mullet of all mullets. Cause his hair is thick and curly and blonde. So like, there's only so short you can go before it starts going wide. Like it's the mulletiest mullet. I will put a picture up on the Instagram because I took a picture and I sent it to you, Rachel, of when we've got mullet, Ger mullet and mime with the weird gelled up hair, like looking at each other. And it just looks like it is the cruelest Lifetime movie I've ever seen. It is so weird and messed up. But the whole episode, I was like, I think he's gonna fuck a mime. I think he's gonna fuck a mime. And I was like, is this a thing that I want to see? I didn't know I wanted to see this, but like I kind of do. And then it never comes to fruition. And I was like, well, there's no porn for me. There's nothing there's no niche that fills this in the market. And I had to take a couple of days to myself where I couldn't watch this program anymore because I was so disappointed. But it was a good episode because it's like they're being chased by terrorists and they're like running down alleys and he's protecting her and there's the sexual tension. And I was like, oh, like this show could be like interesting and good. They're like running through the streets of Paris, aka I think they filmed this in Vancouver, so aka Vancouver. Like it was interesting and like you don't have to have a lot of special effects when it's just like, you know, a cap gun. So the lack of budget is less glaring. Like it was interesting. Like it could have been good. And then they're like, no, bring in the Dick Van Dyke cyborg. Why was that a choice that they made?
Because they had Barry Van Dyke, and he was like, I bet I can get my dad.
Yeah, my dad's
and Dick Van Dyke was like, I'll only come on if I can be a cyborg. And they were like, sure, that's fine. He was like, oh, shit. I was hoping it wasn't that kind of show.
I prefer to think that Barry did not explain anything to Dick Van Dyke, and Dick Van Dyke came in, and they were like, okay, sir, here's what we're going to have you do. You're going to be in a wheelchair. You're not disabled. Don't worry about it. You're going to be in a wheelchair. Your blood will be replaced. At one point, you are going to pick up Garrett Wynn Davies with one hand and your son with the other, and like lift them like 6 feet off the floor, fling them across the room like they're rag dolls. You're going to explode. It'll just be your head. Your body's under the floor, and we're going to have you roll your eyes around like you're a malfunctioning robot. Okay? All right? I know you're Dick Van Dyke, and you're a national treasure. Are you cool with this? And he was like,
yeah.
Well, for Barry, I guess. That's my headcanon, that he was just like, do this
Barry, do I have to? And he was like, this is for my birthday, Dad. Okay, Barry.
So, I mean, I will say that so they give Dick Van Dyke these Coke bottle glasses that really make his eyes look extra huge. And they're sort of, I don't know if the glasses are dirty or if they just made his eyes milky, but there's something really wrong happening with his face. So it's like you're thinking like, how can you make Dick Van Dyke look mean or scary? Like, it's Dick Van Dyke. He's always looked like Dick Van Dyke. This I close my eyes. I have nightmares. Like, it was bad. It was really upsetting. I don't like evil robot Dick Van Dyke. I dislike evil robot Dick Van Dyke more than I disliked that puppet getting the blowjob. And I very much did not enjoy watching the puppet get a blowjob. Okay? That was not fun for me.
And it's so, because this show was either realistic Russian terrorist whatever thing happening, and then there was the East German spy thing, which please include a picture of Ger in his little wig and pencil mustache.
Oh yeah, well, and you forgot to mention the German spy that he plays. It's called Klaus.
Yes,
it's called Klaus. And I was like, it's all coming together. The Ger universe. I'm gonna get my red string out, like all the rules. They just come together.
And then
with that terrible wig and that giant mustache, but he does a good German accent. I mean,
yeah.
Although, can I just say, there's one episode where he has to go undercover in Scotland, and so you and I were both really excited. I was like, he's gonna do a Scottish accent. No. Does anyone do a Scottish accent?
He just punches a guy named Angus.
Angus is a mute. They have a giant mute guy with a garbage can lid strapped to his belly. Like, he doesn't have Kevlar. He has a garbage. He has an Oscar the Grouch round 1970s style garbage can strung on his belly with ropes. And I was like, is that guy going to speak in a Scottish accent? We're apparently in the Isle of Man. We're near Scotland. No, he's a mute. No. They were like, can you do an accent? The guy's like, no, congrats. You're mute. You make no noise. I was so bummed out by it. So the one time he gets to do a German accent, I was like, well, look, anything with a Ger accent, I'm happy for.
Yeah. And then he gets to mac on a woman the whole episode. He's just like smushing her against his body the entire time he has access to her. Like, shh, I'm going to keep you safe. And she's like, I have to breathe. And he's like, no breathing. All is safety. Like, she's like, you're not really my husband. And he's like, oh, but I could be.
The level, like the way it goes, like, so the wife, like, either immediately or almost immediately suspects that her husband has been replaced by Ger, because she doesn't know the plan going in. They just go to a German air show, and Ger, so Klaus is the East German pilot, and he's supposed to do like a little demonstration in the plane, and like she knows that they're going to like the air show. That's it. The Ger and Klaus switch at some point. Ger goes with the lady because the lady is basically being held hostage by East German government officials to make sure that the pilot doesn't defect. The second that she sees him, she's like, I don't know. That hair's a little bit too sassy to be my husband. I don't know if that's him. They make eyes. She's like, and Ger's like, I better kiss you to shut you up. And they just she is fine. She's like, are you my husband? He's like, don't worry about it. She's like, okay, I won't worry about it. And they just make out the entire rest of the episode.
You look close enough.
At one point, they get thrown into the back of a van because you can't just be being held hostage by the East German government. You have to be taken by terrorists who don't like the East German government.
Yes.
And then Airwolf will come and find you. There has to be like 3 separate sets of terrorists per episode.
There has to be like layers. Every storyline needs layers. And this one had layers. And this is the one where the guy gets shot in the head on the camera, on the TV. Like, there's that guy working on the car, and she's like, oh, my engine is broken and I don't know how to work on engines. And he's like, oh, I shall save you, human woman. And so he stands up, and they like, two dudes run from around the corner, grab his arm. One guy puts a gun against his temple, shoots him in the head. You're like, pew! And then they are like, hide the body. And then they get in the truck and drive off. And I was like, that man just got shot right now.
Yeah, the level of just like throwaway violence was so high that I stopped paying attention after a certain point. Like it just became a wave.
And it's like there's a like rampant death. Like just like the guy that explodes on top of the building.
There are multiple guys. Like, there are multiple times when they are in the Airwolf helicopter and they will shoot a human man in the face with a laser from space. They will just, and my favorite part is that sometimes the guy will be standing next to like a barrel of flammable whatever liquid, and so then there's an explosion. Sometimes they will just shoot a guy in the head and he will explode for no reason. Show was so dumb. But yeah, when Ger is pretending to be Klaus and they're in the back of a van, they will have passed out. They will wake up. He will immediately grab her to his body and then is basically just like spider hugging her the rest of the time. There's no reason to keep pretending so hard, but they are just. He does spider fingers. He does make out from your nose to your clavicle. We have weird wigs. We have weird mustaches. We have weird accents. He has amnesia in one episode, which I'm saying is a characteristic because it was sort of an 80s choristic. He definitely has, there are multiple episodes where I noted him doing the, what the fuck am I doing, eyebrow raise for long scenes.
He got lots of how pretty he was. Like when he's with the disenfranchised teens, there's that one teen girl who's like, is he dating anybody? And Joe's like, not that I know of. And she's like, oh, I'd really like to hit that. And she's like, get in line.
Yes, I made a note of this. There was even an episode where someone called him like pretty to his face. I was like, yes, it's fucking happening. Yes. But yeah, the teen wants to fuck him. Yeah. Joe wants to fuck him in 1.5 episodes.
Yeah, every once in a while.
The lady at the bar who's a spy wants to fuck him. The mime wants to silently fuck him. That's gonna happen. Any woman that sees him, like he immediately like gets them on the Ger train. Yeah, it is quality. He's supposed to be, so in every other thing he's in, he plays an actor, and everyone's always like, oh, he's the best actor. In this, he plays a pilot, and when they feel like making him a distinct character, they will mention, oh, he is the best pilot that we have. He is the smartest, and he's the best pilot. But like that, it doesn't matter. It literally matters. Like
everybody can fly it.
Because everybody can fly the super proprietary space helicopter from the future or whatever. But like in terms of characteristics, like someone telling him he's the best at what he does, like that happens a couple of times. What characteristics am I forgetting?
I don't know. He's not even as overly clothed as one might think. There's that episode where he's washing a plane and he's wearing a shirt that has like the widest neck I've ever seen on a shirt. And he almost does like a cold shoulder slip when he's like leaning around to talk to Joe. And I was like, oh, sir, that is almost nudity.
For him.
For you. I was like, oh, you did not wear a jacket zipped all the way up. I mean, they have their flight suits that they sometimes wear when they're flying Airwolf.
Oh, which speaking of, okay, so the only other thing to recommend this show, and there's so goddamn little, I will say, because I sent you pictures of this on the Discord, I had forgotten that the cut of men's jeans in 1987, how to describe, was
dead ass.
That whole zone, that whole like, that whole
exceptionally tight jeans,
the butt to crotch zone is so tight that like it seems a little uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it seems like I don't know that you could sit down in this, sir, and then later be the father to children because the level of definition and tightness, like. Wow. Like gray sweatpants season has nothing on the jeans of Airwolf. So like don't buy the Airwolf DVD for this, but like if you get a chance to like go to Wikipedia and Google Airwolf season 4 and like fast forward until you see someone wearing jeans.
It's streaming on the Roku channel.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Mm-hmm. So put it on the Roku channel and then find an episode when they're not wearing their because the flight suits are tight on the butt. It's real nice on the butt. But like whenever they wear jeans, my breath was taken away. I was like,
yeah.
This feels a little pornographic. Like, sir, like you need to be covered from like the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. But this you were comfortable with?
Yeah.
This. You're poking out of your jeans, sir. The fabric of your jeans is not strong enough to contain whatever is happening behind them. I'm a little embarrassed. I'm a little bit purple trying to watch this. What is happening? Like, what am I looking at? And then he turned around and I was like, okay, it's going to be fine now because his butt's facing the camera. It was not fine, Rachel. It was not. It was too tight. And it wasn't even, it's not like Ger. It's not like Ger showed up to set wearing pants that are 3 sizes too small and was like, I dare you to ask about it.
No, he was given those.
It was all the men. It was Barry Van Dyke. It was the guy who played Locke. It was all Anthony Sherwood. It was all of them. If they wore jeans, I was like, sir, I can see the head. Like, I don't like it. This is too much. This is too much. I am a modest woman. I am embarrassed.
I am a modest woman. This is too much for
I'm getting
me.
the vapors. I'm like, oh no. I mean, like, oh yes, but oh no.
Yeah. Oh no.
And then I took pictures. I sent them to you.
You did. It's a television show that he's in the last season of.
Yes.
That is then canceled.
Yeah. And there was at least one episode where the Sinjin character was making all of this, was having all this dialogue where he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like doing all these dangerous missions and like having to do stuff for the government. Like, I don't work for the government, but I sort of do. And like, I feel like very restrained and like chained down and like I'm forced to do all these things and I hate it. And I'm putting my life on the line and like, for what? I don't get any recognition. Like I don't have a personal life. And I was like, oh, is that going to lead into like why the show ends? Cause that's like the second to last episode.
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
Nope. The next episode, they forget that conversation ever happened. We do have a woman with a drug problem where the main character is like, oh, I wish you had told me. And I was like, okay, so this sounds exactly like the ending of Forever Night where someone's like, I wish you had told me what was going on with you. And then I die. But then nothing. Like, no, like, I don't, it really feels like they had no idea that the show was going to end. There's like no, like, wrap up to any of the characters or like not that there's anything to wrap up really. I mean, like, there's the helicopter that the government wants and can't have, but it's not even like the government is actively trying to bring it back every episode or like, I mean, the closest thing to a cliffhanger is, after the Dick Van Dyke robot explodes, we find out that real Dick Van Dyke, the human man, is still out there in the world tenting his evil fingers. But it's sort of like a cliffhanger in the way that Russia still existing in the world is a cliffhanger. Like there could be Russian terrorists again tomorrow. There could be some more Japanese businessmen who are pissed off about how World War II ended. They could come back tomorrow. Like it's sort of nothing matters. Like literally like nothing matters. Nobody changes. Nobody grows.
Right. You don't feel like that's going to be a recurring character because you don't care. I think there's like 1 2-part episode and that's the one with the nuclear reactor.
Yeah. Which I don't even know why that was a 2-part episode.
Slavingrad or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, because it just took that long to wrap up the stupid plot because they're trying to put out a nuclear reactor fire with a helicopter. Although my favorite, most audacious one is the one where they are trying to save the space launch because that guy has the little transponder that will interfere with the space launch and will make it blow up. And so we don't want that to happen. So if we can't find this transponder, we're going to have to delay the launch. And they know this transponder is in this apartment complex. And so they are staking out this apartment complex in a helicopter.
Well, but that reminds me. So the way that this is not stupid, according to the TV show, is that besides lasers, the one other thing that this helicopter can do is it can go into whisper mode.
Right, but they're like 10 feet away from the wall. Like every time
whisper
they're
mode
like
is not invisible. That's a good point.
Like if you pulled back the curtains, there'd just be a helicopter outside and they're like I mean, if you're sitting there in a pizza truck and somebody spots you, you're fine, right? Like they're going to be like, wow, that pizza truck's been parked there for a long time, but like whatever.
But you're right. This helicopter is outside the fucking window, just floating there.
If you're a fucking helicopter, 20 feet off the ground, 10 feet away from an apartment complex, which is in town, by the way. Everybody walking by is going to be like, dude, why is that helicopter there?
And they're there for hours,
Shh.
like over a whole day.
Yeah, like a long time. Because Joe is for some reason inside. She's not a spy. She's not anything. She just owns an air hangar. And she bullies her way into being a part of the Airwolf thing by being like, I can fly helicopters. And they're like, yeah, but like a lot of people can't. She's like, no, I could fly them like really good. and I have an air hangar thingy. And they're like,
but like the fact that they use her in some of those things kept making me think, oh, they're going to have more for her. They're going to give her character more depth. They're going to give her character more to do. And they just never... All the characters are just interchangeable. It's just like, where am I going to move this peg this episode? All right, this peg is inside the apartment building.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's bad at it. Because like there's that kid that keeps trying to run away and she's like, let's take you back to your mom. And the kid's like, she's not my mom. She's a Russian spy. And she's like, oh, kids are cute. And she just gives the kid back to the girl. And so like traumatic. Every single time. And the kid's like, stop. And then the dog. No, the dog doesn't. The kid has it. It's so weird. Anyway, the funniest part about that episode was staking out an apartment complex in a helicopter. Yeah. And I was thinking, if you were the kind of neurospicy that really liked flying machines, this would be a great show for you. Because a good 10 to 15 minutes of every episode was just helicopters flying. Or planes
the same
flying.
Clip over and over again.
Or planes and helicopters flying together.
It did kind of remind me. So like, the show seems like it's aimed at adults. I know that they said that season 4 was meant to be more family friendly, but I feel like overall with all of the like
family friendly, a guy gets shot in the face.
Well, what we thought in the 80s was like,
okay, all right.
Although I will say that like speaking of them getting shot, did you like how out of like 24 episodes in like 23, everyone who got shot, no blood. In like one episode, everyone bleeds all the blood that they would have bled in all the other episodes. But like the whole time, like people are getting, it's that thing where like you get shot and then you do like a ballet dive and you like swan dive, you like spin away from the bullet. Yeah, no blood to anything. But like everyone is very dead. Like they're not trying to hide it. They're not trying to be like, oh, he'll recover later in prison. No, everyone's getting like kill shots. But like I feel like overall, like the show was, I mean, at least the first 3 seasons, it sounds like we're definitely aimed at adults. And this was like adults, but okay for kids because violence will be fine. They'll be fine with violence.
Yeah, it's fine.
But like,
they're Russian kids. They're not real people.
Yeah, it's fine. Just blow them up. We don't care. So like, it felt like it felt like the Avengers where like, it's like there's political things that are aimed at adults, but also like fun for kids, even though violence. But like, the level of technology that was going on made it like it reminded me very much of Power Rangers. Like they have an underground lair.
Yeah, it was very Power Rangers.
Inside a fucking volcano. Like they had like the same kind of console where there's like a bunch of buttons that light up that don't mean anything, that they beep boop. They have in the helicopter, they have like little TV screens that like were very much like what they used to have on the Carmen Sandiego, like the video game, the computer game, but also like that they had in Carmen Sandiego, the game show that was on around the same time. Like the level of technology was like, nobody knows what anything like we have such a low level of technology in real life that our fake technology can be super fanciful and elaborate and people will believe it's real. And then you watch it now and you're like, the fuck am I, like your desk is made out of cardboard. Like what the fuck am I watching? like beep boop. Like, but it felt like Power Rangers in that half the episodes were one robot thing fighting another robot thing. So we have Airwolf, the cool helicopter. In this episode, it's going to fight this evil plane. And this episode is going to fight another evil helicopter. And like, so I feel like when I was a kid, I'm like, yeah, the robot dinosaur is fighting the other robot dinosaur. Like, yeah. And now as an adult, I'm just like, I don't want to watch robots fight robots. Like, I need human content to this. I can't watch the same clip of the same plane fighting the same other plane with pew, 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 drawn on lasers. It literally sounded like their laser sound was a human person going to a microphone and going pew 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 pew.
It's exactly what it sounds like. It was bad.
It was, but like towards the end, after mainlining 24 episodes, I was like, I could watch another one. I could watch Ger fuck another mime. I could watch him have sex with another spy lady. Like the Ger episodes were not bad, and I know that we're biased because Ger can get it, but like the Ger centric episodes were the ones where they were focusing on like the human level of things. So like, here's the East German spy who's going to defect, and here's the spy who's inside the company who's trying to steal Airwolf, and here's the French mime lady, and we need to protect her. So it's like a spy thriller and international, and like there's like police stuff going on. Like it's you're on the people level, and on the people level, the show had potential and was interesting. And like every once in a while in any other episode, you'd have 5 minutes of the characters talking to each other. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm getting a sense of what the interpersonal relationships are and like how they deal with each other and how they feel about their job and how they feel about like the government. And like you're giving me like something of interest to grab onto, and then they'd be like, "Nah, we don't want that. Let's go back to the poison
pew, pew,
that
lasers,
the Japanese
pew,
guy
pew.
is going to use to kill everyone." Or like the cult that was started. I want to get this correct. The cult that was started by a robot who was created by a mad scientist woman who then becomes in thrall to her robot cult leader. Like, the fuck is that? Like, really?
Yes.
Like, I don't want, no, like
somebody was like, oh yeah, that's
shit?
so twisty. I love it. And then they made it to a show and everyone's like, what just happened? I can't decide if this was good when it came out. You know what I mean? Like,
well, what I saw, so when I was doing some Googling earlier, I did find some subreddits where they talk about Airwolf, and it seemed pretty unanimous that people were like, we loved the first 3 seasons. We all agree the 4th season never happened. And I feel bad because, like, you know, I mean, not that Ger cares. I'm sure he's not sitting at home being like, I wish more people liked Airwolf. But like,
but you want your things that you did to be liked, you know?
Yeah. And like the scenes where they let him do his Ger things, I was like, yes, good, thumbs up. Like, this is the human interest part. Like, I like this. I want more of this. But like the show in this season doesn't focus on that. And it doesn't even seem to be very good at the like twisty, turny international intrigue politics stuff, because it all after a while, it just kind of felt like nonsense words, just like like Charlie Brown teacher voice. Like nothing meant anything. Like somehow the stakes were so high and also didn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like the world is about to blow up or be poisoned every single fucking episode. And maybe because it happens every single episode, like it just didn't didn't register. Yeah, it was like, okay, oh, Joe's going to be a sex slave? Well, I hate that, but okay. Because like everything's going to go back to status quo at the end of the episode.
Okay, we're going to figure it out. And
you're going to murder all the guys.
Yeah.
And it'll be fine for your characters, I guess. Like the Afghan kid who's trying to escape from the warlord in that episode, shit's not going to go well for him, but we don't care because he's only in this episode. So bye forever.
Yep.
End of scene. So like, I don't know. Yeah, it sounds like people, I haven't seen any of the other seasons. I hear that it's like, it feels more realistic, but I sort of wonder like if those episodes, if we watch those now, if those would feel the way 24 feels to me now, where I'm like, this is fucking dumb. This is so dumb. It thinks it's brilliant, but it is dumb as shit. But it thinks it's like the smartest, most politically astute, like, see what we did here, how we explained like international politics to you, but like we covered it like it's entertainment. We got into your brains, like we just exploded your consciousness, like.
Yeah. I wonder if it would, I mean, it had to have been good enough that they could bring it back for a 4th season with none of the original actors.
Or they just needed to fill a time slot and they had no money and.
I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like it was beloved. The first 3 seasons, it was beloved. And then it just sounds like there's the perfect storm of terrible like personal situations for the actors, and then like the network had no money, and then we switched to a different network that has less money, and the way to do that is to ship them to Canada where it'll be cheaper and we'll be able to do something with it. But I don't know. It's what's weird is like as I found some stuff about Jan Michael Vincent, like his personal problems, and that's why he wasn't on the show after like the first 5 minutes of the first episode of season 4. But I didn't see anything for the other actors. Like, were you asked to come back, but for less money? Were you told to like fuck off? We're not dealing with you anymore. Like, because some of those characters that they mentioned that were like main characters in the first 3 seasons, they're not even name checked in the first episode of season 4.
Yeah,
like
can you imagine coming back? You come back, you're like, yeah, season 4, my favorite show, and in the pilot, they either die or are not mentioned, and then nothing.
I mean, as a veteran fan of Forever Night, I am totally used to characters just...
But at least most of the characters, okay, several of the characters don't make it to season 3, but they at least get explained away. There's a nod to where they've gone.
I guess that's true. In the shittiest fireball.
Yeah.
Speaking of drawn on the screen later.
It's terrible. It's not great, but and then the main characters are still there. This would be like if we opened season 3 and you watched Nick walk out into the sun, LaCroix was just gone, Jeanette was just gone, Skanky gets shot in a shootout, and then we have an entire new cast.
I mean, that's emotionally how it felt, but like fair point.
It'd be like being Human season 4 in the UK. Yep. I have
feelings. I have feelings about that show.
Yep.
As you well know.
But they do get arcs about where they go, but they all go. And so when we come back for the last season, all new cast. Yeah. I like the werewolf guy better though.
The kind of dumb one?
I do like Hal.
I know we're not talking about this show. We will talk about this show at some point, but like I don't like that I'm into Prince Hal. I love
Hal so fucking much. The scene where he's working at the coffee shop and the lady comes in and she tries to pay with a poem. And he goes, I had a sword and a shield. A big one. And a horse. Like, aw. Used to be a crusader, Hal. Anyway, I diverged.
We'll at some point we're gonna strap each other into some chairs.
Oh, that'll be our post Ger Can Get It. We'll do a being something.
It'll just be like angry, incoherent screaming for like 1 hour a week.
Yeah, Ger Can Do It, Get It version 2, obviously.
I mean, fair. Okay, so did I miss any characteristics in this? I feel like he does all the things. Oh, he hits buttons weird. So I feel like that goes to him like not using his hands like a normal
monster
human
hands, just like the so like
monster hands, spider fingers, making out with the ladies, told he's pretty to his face.
Yep.
Weird wigs, eyebrows, weird mustache.
He wears a tie.
Never nude.
He's the German guy.
Oh, yeah. Good catch.
Yep. He's not a bad guy. I mean, he's supposed to be German, but whatever.
Yeah.
He doesn't die when he definitely should have several times. But he doesn't have any weird moms. I don't think his mom shows up or anything.
Although he has that one, the kid episode where he's making up weird stories about his mother. I feel like that gets a half point.
That one was so weird because he's supposed to be emotionally connecting with these teens. And he's like, yeah, I was like you. I was on the streets. And then I got taken in by this old World War II pilot. And he taught me the ropes. And he taught me everything I know. And the kid's like, really? And he's like, no, that's not a real story.
It sounded very much like I was in a sexual relationship with an old man. And then he's like, no, that's not a real story. I didn't just tell you about being molested as a teen by a former fighter pilot.
He keeps like telling them, and he gets this moment of almost genuine emotional connection. And he's like, nah, I'm fucking with you. And you're like, that's not how you connect with.
Because it was the 80s and you couldn't have any genuine emotional connection with anyone, including women you slept with in cheap motels and then shot in the chest the next day. Oh, man. This show.
I think Weird Mother's the only one he didn't.
Yeah, but he makes up a weird mom story. That's my point.
But there's no actual weird mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the weird mom characteristic is hinted at. It's in the air.
Yeah. And then there's the flashback episode where we have he's got amnesia and he's supposed to be remembering things from his life, like remembering people. And it's flashbacks that I don't remember happening in the show.
Several of them are not. Yeah. That's the funniest part to me. Yeah. There's a part where he's living with Sinjin and I was like, did I miss an episode?
Yeah. Like he shows up at Sinjin and he's at Sinjin's apartment and he's like, I'm going to stay here for a while. And he's like, it's 2:00 in the morning. And he's like,
because my girlfriend kicked me out. And I was like, you had a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Like where the fuck?
And I was like, every single one of those flashbacks, I was like, I would watch that episode.
Yeah.
Why did I not get this in an actual episode?
Yeah, it's the only time I think I've ever seen that on television, because normally when you're watching something and there's a flashback, they flash back to a thing that we have seen.
Yeah.
To something that we saw. No. Several of the ones in this, were totally made up brand new things for the flashback. And because they're like, again, they're at that character level. I was like, oh, these are more interesting than any of the shit you actually showed me. I would watch this. I'd watch the Sinjin and Ger living together, like the Skanky and Nick Knight living together episode. Like that's fun to watch them like butt heads. I would watch that. Nope.
No,
the
we got no rest.
No.
We got no rest. Everything was terrorists and shooting and flying and bullshit.
And robots and cults.
This was the most like, hey, these are people that do stuff when they're not fighting terrorists. Like we had that scene where they're fixing Airwolf and he's like, what kind of name is Sinjin anyway? And he's like, well, my dad really liked it. Like he had a friend whose name was that. He's like, you want to hear a really weird name, Stringfellow? And he's like, Stringfellow? Oh my God, what a weird name. And you're like, I would love that. Like I would have loved that moment.
That's as close as you're getting to actual characters with character development and personalities that are distinct. Like that's as close as we get. Because the rest of the time, they're either just like generic puppet, tough guy pilot, or they swing really far the other way and they just feel like giant 13-year-old boys.
Yeah.
When they're playing basketball and they're like, oh, Joe, like stop being such a girl, Joe. And I'm like, so you're like 32. Like it's weird. The personality swing you just did is very weird.
Yeah.
This show, like I don't know how to, it hurt my brain a little. Like my brain doesn't work the way it used to after trying to watch this. Spoiler alert, when you get to 24, because I've been trying to pound that in the background, it's not going to be any better than this. That's also like 24 episodes because it makes up a whole day. We're in the dark period of Ger's career. We're going to find some light soon. We'll bring some more Shakespeare back. That'll be more fun. But this was, I don't know that I can, would you recommend someone to pick up Airwolf season 4?
No.
Not
unless you just like, every time you see a helicopter, you get really excited. That's probably the show for you. But if that's not what you like, then don't do that. I mean, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 eyebrows because
so many characteristics.
There's so many characteristics, but I docked an eyebrow for the effort you have to go through to get to them.
It really, like, we're not joking. Like, I was watching this and I was like, you got to get through this. You just got to fucking get through it. I was like smacking myself to be awake.
Yeah. It was like, okay, just, you can do this. It's a television show. And I was like, can I put it at 2 times speed? If I had been on a computer, I would have, but I was watching it on the Roku channel. So I was stuck. But
I feel like if I made a compilation of only the Ger scenes, like we first meet him and he's like sexy in the tent and funny, and then we have the scenes where he's trying to like teach degenerate teens how to be like how to have like camping skills. Like that was kind of fun. We have the sexy mime scene, we have the sexy spy scene. Like if I just put all those together on a little disc, that would be fun to watch. But like the rest of it, like
it would have as much of a storyline as
it would have exactly as much of a storyline. Yeah. So I mean, and I think it's funny that one of the delinquent teens is Jason Priestley. I don't know if we mentioned that. Grown up Jason Priestley. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, those jeans were, my God,
and the tight jeans.
They were.
I mean, it wasn't Ickway. I wasn't actively offended. I just wasn't. There was nothing to keep me entertained. Like there was nothing engaging.
No, but that's a good point because, like, for all the Russian terrorists, the Japanese businessmen, the French drug dealers, which we didn't mention because that episode was bizarre. They like follow some drugs across the world slowly while wearing black trench coats, black sunglasses, and black hats. Like that's how drug dealers dress. But like for all of the like ethnic diversity and the fact that it's 1987, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Really, the worst thing that I saw was not paralyzed Dick Van Dyke in a wheelchair, which was more just confusing, frankly, than, I mean, I don't know, maybe wheelchair users in the audience will watch it and be like, well, that's awful. And it's not good. But like for 1987,
it's nice.
Having Japanese characters and Russian characters and German characters, it could have been deeply worse.
Yeah.
So
it was not as bad as Cats and Dog. Cats and Dog.
Yeah.
The one where they like manhandle the guy in the wheelchair around. They're like, no, you got to get out and be free.
Where they're pissed off that he has a wheelchair. They're like, God, it's inconvenient for us. Could you maybe not be disabled?
Yeah. And then they push him around. Like they totally take his agency away and just shove him around everywhere.
They pick him up. And throw him into a wheelchair.
Yeah, that was worse.
It was so bad. What year was that? Do you remember? Was that before 87? It must have been. Right?
Let's see.
We do these episodes and then they immediately leave my brain because I'm not emotionally prepared to like let them live in there. But so, I mean, you know, in terms of like,
oh, hey, we showed up. I looked up Cats and Dog.
And we show up?
And we showed up.
Oh, Google, come on.
It's either between 1988 and 93. I don't know.
It was after this? Wow. Airwolf ahead of its time with disability. Oh my God, with disability representation. So, okay, so you gave it 4 out of 5 sloppy wet kisses. Or no.
Raised eyebrows, yeah.
I don't even know what it's been so long. I don't know what my rating system is. I'm sloppy wet kisses. I would give it for the tight jeans, and for that fun episode where he plays a German spy, a fake German spy, and he like aggressively makes out with the spy's wife, and she is fine with it.
He's in Airwolf before he's in Ikwe.
That can't be right.
This is 1984. Let me look up a different one.
Oh, no. So Airwolf starts in 84. Our season is 87.
Oh, okay.
So that cannot possibly. That throws off my scale of the universe too grandly. I cannot. Okay, so let me think. So for rating, the tightest jeans I've ever seen in my entire life gets it a couple points on my scale. The making out with the German wife, and she's fine with it, knowing that that's not her husband. She's like, well, he looks like my husband. I'm like, okay, fine. The almost making out with a mime, because I've never seen that on television before, and I hope it becomes a trope. I hope sexy lady mimes comes back in the culture. I hope we go back to that well, and we have more sexy lady mime stories. She is never silent in the entire episode. I don't know if I mentioned that. She never mimes. But that's her career.
Ever. That show feels like the show you buy tickets for and you hype up your kids. You're like, this is going to be really fun. They're going to have a bunch of different kinds of performers. There's a magician and a mime. And then you go and you're like, no.
It does feel like it's one of those shows where you would not think it was going to be avant-garde, or you were like, maybe a little avant-garde, and then you show up and it is so avant-garde that you start sweating in your palms a little bit, and you're like, someone's gonna jump out at me, someone's gonna like touch me, or like do that thing where they like don't quite touch me and they like stare at me and I have to participate and I don't want to participate, like, and then they're gonna give me like a flag from a country that doesn't exist, and we're gonna have to like have a moment together emotionally. Like I don't like, if I want to be part of like an art experience, I'm going to go to MoMA. I'm going to sit with Marina Abramovich. We're going to stare into each other's eyes, and we're going to start crying together in the lobby of the museum. I don't want that at my mime show. I just want mimes. I just want happy mimes.
I just want a mime.
Yeah, she never mimes. She never mimes.
She pushes
but she definitely
away.
fucks.
She pushes away a balloon. That's the one mime thing
I forgot about that. Yeah, she gets into a fight with a balloon and the balloon wins. That's her miming. That's her. And she was very good at it. Like I was like, oh, I believe that balloon is fighting you, ma'am. That's good. Good job. Oh, that balloon is coming at you. Oh, that's so scary. But like, is that mime? Please write it. Please tell us. You can do it anonymously. We're Ger Can Get It at gmail.com. Just send us some anonymous emails. Tell us about like, just give us some like sexy mime experiences. Like tell me what your life is. But I digress. because Ger is about to fuck a mime, and that's the greatest sentence I think I've ever said or will ever say, that gives some points. So I guess for Sloppy Wet Kisses, out of 10, and also because it fully gave me Stockholm Syndrome towards the end, and it kind of made me want to watch more, even though it was a very painful experience, and it took me 3 weeks, and I got a little bit weak after trying to watch these episodes. I'm going to give it like 4.5 Sloppy Wet Kisses. Because I feel like 5 and above, I have to actually enjoy. And I did not in any way enjoy this program. But I'll be thinking about it for years to come.
Yeah.
Not just those jeans.
That's called PTSD.
I do have a little bit of PTSD. I do have a little bit of Stockholm Syndrome where I maybe Googled where can I buy a gray flight suit and the Airwolf patch. It turns out you can get those things separately, not together, but for Halloween maybe. And I did like seeing Ger's baby mullet. I did like that they gave him an opportunity to start the like proto Ger character of like the coolest, smartest, horniest, best at his job guy when they remembered that he was a distinct character. I like that they gave him a chance for that. So yeah, like 4.5. Like good. Not good.
It's decent.
I can't. You will hurt yourself if you try to watch this. Like you will get a little bit sick. I cannot recommend watching this at all. But like we did it because we are goddamn professionals and we are going to get through his whole filmography, whether it kills us. And this week it nearly did. I saw the white light trying to get
was
through.
Close. I was just laying on the couch like, I can't.
It makes you physically weak. I know. And I forgot that like we built in commercial breaks in these shows. So like there'd be like 20 minutes and then there'd be a title card. And then music, the same bad, crappy music, and then a separate title card for when you get back from commercials, and the same goddamn awful music. So it made every episode, like, it's only like 40 minutes without commercials. It made every episode feel like 6 hours. Like, I zoned out, I would zone back in, and like nothing had changed. And you don't have to do drugs. You just do this, and your brain goes to a different brain level.
Just watch Airwolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like you said, so it's available on DVD, and like you said, the 4th season at least is available on Roku. So at your own risk. Oh, all of them? Okay.
All of them.
At your own risk, guys. I don't think I bought it on DVD. I don't think they had special features, but I'll be honest, I did not look for the special features on Airwolf season 4. I stuck it into my DVD player and I was like, let's do this. And I did what I could. So yeah, don't subject yourself to this, friends.
No,
don't.
We're professionals.
We do this for a living. Oh my God.
We're highly trained.
Dedication. Although it worked, which we will discuss. By the time you're listening to this, you will have heard our trip recap episode. But if we haven't actually recorded it yet because we're doing this backwards. But I think it worked. I think we are so inoculated that by the time we saw him, we were like, we've seen you in garbage. You have no power over us anymore, sir. Oh, which you'll have to listen to our special episode when we make it, which in your timeline we already have in our future. Oh my God. Airwolf broke my brain. I'm going to go and I need a drink. Anyways, on that note, friends, bye.
Bye. We'd say don't be a narc, but
we narked ourselves.
We narked ourselves so hard.
Me, I narked us. I narked us all the way.
But
you guys don't be narcs.
No. Bye.
Bye.